What's up everybody, Boone here from PremiumBeat.com. Today I'm going to show you a really cool technique in After Effects where you can retouch skin using mask tracking. Let's get started. So I shot this interview for a project several years ago, and after I delivered my final video, the interview subject contacted me concerned with some of the blemishes on his face, because we're on a pretty tight close-up here, and he asked if there was anything I could do to fix the blemishes. So I tinkered around in After Effects for a while, and I found a method for retouching that I'm really happy with and really worked well for this particular situation. So I want to share that with you now in 5 simple steps. But before we get started with that, just be aware that when you're retouching a photograph, you only have to worry about that one photograph. But when you're retouching blemishes in video, everything's moving, and you're working with hundreds, if not sometimes thousands of photographs that make up that particular video clip. And not only that, you have to worry about each photograph blending into the next and how that you need to make it look real. So I'm using a method here that involves mask and tracking. So let me show you. I'm going to show you how we can fix one particular blemish, and then at the end I'll also show you my final product and all the blemishes that I fixed. So let's focus on this cheek spot here. We have a red spot here on our interview subject's cheek. So for the first step, we want to duplicate our clip and rename our duplicate clip cheek. And once you start retouching all the different spots on the face, it's good to properly label them so you know what's going on. Now with this layer selected, our second step is we want to mask out a certain area. So I'm going to select the Ellipse Tool. Now think of this part like cloning. Like when you clone in Photoshop, you want to kind of select an area around the particular blemish. So I'm going to select an area right next to my blemish. And this is important to select an area close by for 2 reasons. You want to be able to get proper tracking information near the blemish, and you want to have the same particular color, so it's going to work and look good as a patch over that blemish. Okay, so for our third step, now we want to track this mask. So to track, we go down to our mask and select it, right click or control click, and select Track Mask. Once this is selected, it'll open up our tracker panel, and now we can track our mask. But before we track, you can look here, there's a couple of different methods you can select, and you can track forward or backward, and you can also go frame by frame. But since our current time indicator is at the beginning, I'm just going to see how it goes with tracking. Okay, it looks like it's holding pretty well. Now, depending on the length of your clip and the movement of the objects and the color and contrast of your subject is going to depend on how well your track goes. So just be aware of that. This may take a little bit. I mean, this looks pretty easy for this in this tutorial, but you may run into some roadblocks that you may need to go frame by frame. And this track is looking pretty good. So we have our track. Now, for step 4, we want to move this and patch our blemish. So right now the mask is selected. I want to select just a layer. So if I click in here, now we see that the layer is selected, not just the mask. So we're essentially moving this layer, and we're going to move it over our blemish. But before we do that, let me help you visualize this. So I'm going to isolate this patch. I'm going to zoom out, and now if we play it back, look what happens. Our track was good and our patch is moving. Everything looks good. Now you're essentially just moving this patch over your blemish. So again, make sure the layer is selected, move it straight over. And this is why you want to have it close by, because that tracking information is tracking this area, not the blemish area. So this is where you might run into some problems, if you do run into any problems, because the tracking information, if this is moving in a kind of a different direction from where the blemish is, it can cause you some problems. But let's play this back and see how it looks. And right off the bat, it's looking pretty good. But let me just go ahead, and for our final step, we want to do any kind of retouching. Right now it's got these, it kind of has these hard edges, so we want to get rid of that. So to do that, I'm going to select my layer, press the F shortcut key. That's going to bring up our mask feather. Now I can add about a 10 pixel feather here. That's going to make it blend in, look a little bit more smooth. And if we wanted to, we could also adjust the color correction and the brightness levels, but this is looking pretty good. But just for the purposes of this tutorial, let me show you. You could add a quick curves effect, and then you could go down, and let's say it's a little too pink or a little too, the hue's off. We can adjust the brightness levels, or we could go into the particular red channel, mess with the red channel. There's plenty that you can do to make this blend in. So, but as I said, it's already looking good, so we don't need to do anything. Now let's have a look. Again, we added the feather. Okay, yeah, that's looking good. Now let's do a little before and after. Let's turn off this layer. There we go. You saw how long that took. That only took a few minutes to fix that up. Okay, so I showed you how in 5 simple steps you can remove a blemish. Let me show you how this project ended up, how it looked after I retouched the majority of his face. So here's the before, and here is the after. Now if we go in and really look at this, you can see there's quite a few spots that I kind of touched up. Again, here's the before, a little bit of a neck crease here, and there's spots here, 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 and his nose as well. I went in and just kind of removed a couple of things. Before, after, before, after. We go up here. This could actually use a little bit more work. It's still a little dirty here. Before, after, before, after. And also a special case here for his nostril. For this, there's the before. For this particular clip, there's a lot going on in his nose here, so I put a mask around this nostril and tracked the mask, and then I just used the curves effect to make it solid black, and then added a feather and adjusted the opacity to kind of cover up, to make his nose look at least a little bit better. Now again, to really visualize what's going on here, I mean, I can play back the full clip here. Everything's looking pretty good, but to really see what's going on, let's just isolate this again. And here are all of the patches. It's kind of cool to look at it this way. You can see the tracking information held up well. You can see the feathers of each mask. So it's a really cool method here, and you can not only apply this to blemishes, I could use this to cover up signs or wall outlets on the background. There's just a lot of stuff. Actually, as a matter of fact, let's say this guy didn't pay me, like a client didn't pay me, and I could say, okay, you don't want to pay me? I'll give you 4 eyes. And then, yep, you got 4 eyes there. Congratulations, pay me. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Be sure to check out PremiumBeat for high quality, royalty-free music and sound effects for all of your media and video projects.